Welcome into 49ers Access. My name is Sterling Bennett, and today we're going to recap day number 11 of San Francisco 49ers training camp in what was a showcase of how great this defense can be. A lot of big plays happening on offense, so much going on. Going to break down everything for you from training camp today. Going to get into Ricky Pearsall continuing to stack days on the offense. Upton Stout looking like the next defensive star of Robert Saleh's unit. And then we're also going to get into maybe some smaller standouts throughout the day. But don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Still looking for 100 audio podcast reviews before week number 1 of the regular season. And let's dive into day number 11, the penultimate day before Niners and Broncos joint practices. And let's start things off with the quick hitters of my notes, because the San Francisco 49ers continue to make some smaller moves before practice. We saw a ton of signings and releases and waves yesterday before practice, most notably Isaiah Neor and kicker Greg Joseph. Today, just one move, albeit one that may make some fans maybe happy, maybe they don't care, but the team released and waived wide receiver Andy Isabella, who got hurt during some special teams work in yesterday's practice. He was waived this morning, and the team re-signed wide receiver Equanimeous St. Brown. So if that doesn't tell you that despite how many releases and signings they made yesterday, things can change really quickly, and maybe players that you like that got cut may be brought back in the near future. And I think it kind of lends credence to the idea that maybe Greg Joseph may find his way back on the roster, maybe as soon as Saturday against the Broncos, or maybe shortly after that. So a lot's changing quickly. This team needs bodies, and Equanimeous St. Brown's in. Andy Isabella is out. We did get some injury updates from the coaching staff today because Jordan James returned after having a knee injury. Wasn't sure exactly how long he would be out. Did some light work in individual drills yesterday, was a full go today, and looked mighty explosive. He was up there cutting and was decisive, and he'll probably get the brunt of the first team reps against the Broncos this Saturday. Not sure exactly if starters will play in the preseason game against Denver on Saturday, but Jordan James is in line for a lot of work with the first team on that day, because no Isaac Guerendo. If CMC does not play, or at least plays slightly, you're going to see a lot of their 5th round pick this season. But today looked good, looked fresh, a good sign there for the rookie running back out of Oregon. Then Deommodore Lenoir, who did, again, some light work yesterday like Jordan James. He was a full go today at training camp, so good for him. Had an excellent PBU against George Kittle, working back with the first team. So some nice returns for San Francisco heading into what's going to be one of the more impressive or more important practice sessions with the Broncos on Thursday as Denver comes into town. John Neville's in the YouTube chat says, "What's up, Sterling? I made it to you live, bro." John, thank you for being in here. I promise the music choices shall get better on the YouTube shorts. You asked for it. I'll make sure to do some more digging into what music I use. Had to give Pearsall his props, but happy you're in here, brother. Hope you're having a great Tuesday afternoon. Continuing here with the injury report, though, a lot of guys are absent. A lot of guys also rehabbing injuries today. It's a laundry list of players, most notably Isaac Guerendo, who has a shoulder injury, but the leg still works, so he's still getting in some work, albeit it being light on the sideline. Renardo Green, hamstring strain, hoping to come back not this week, but next week against the Raiders. He was out there today doing some work. Evan Anderson was also getting some work done on the sideline alongside Jacob Cowing. Andre Dillard, saw him for the first time today, so a really good sign for who's supposed to be this team's backup right tackle, or at least in the conversation for that role. Jair Brown also on the sideline today alongside Sam Okawanu. The big kind of absence of the day, minus the guys that are, like Brandon Ayuk and Mustafa, who are going to be out for a while. Nick Bosa has not practiced for 3 consecutive days. Juwan Jennings also still not practicing either, but Nick Bosa, They are classifying it as soreness for him as a reason to not practice. Not exactly sure where he is sore at, but they're not giving him an injury designation, so that's a good sign. I think it's more so just Nick has been practicing really hard and maybe has run himself into a bit of not an injury, but again, some soreness as they worded it. And there is no reason to have Nick Bosa out there every single day if he's having any sort of health problem, whether it be really minor or really serious. So no Nick Bosa today, but did do some light stretching, some light jogging. He had a long sleeve and some shorts on today with the big vest they wear to kind of monitor their stuff. But no Nick Bosa. I think he might be back by Thursday. That's my assumption. I would also assume that Kyle Juszczyk will probably be back by Thursday as well, alongside Jair Brown. Juszczyk has a cut on his Achilles, not a tear, not a strain. At least that's what we're being told. And then Jair Brown, who has an ankle injury after a surgery he had, taking things slow with him. It makes sense to keep those guys out, knowing you have an off day tomorrow. Then you're back at practice on Thursday with an off day on Friday leading into Saturday's preseason game. So a lot of rest for guys nursing injuries, but those three guys I think should be back by Thursday with practices against the Denver Broncos. Some kind of small noteworthy things to pass along your way from practice today. One kind of under the radar question I've had is who will be this team's kick and punt returner? Now, last year it was Jacob Cowing. He's currently injured. There also was some short stints for Isaac Arendo. He's also injured. And yes, you can certainly say that Junior Burgeon, this year's 7th-round draft pick, being the return specialist that he is, probably is leading that conversation, and I would agree with you. But we saw Dallis Flowers, cornerback, back there today, Junior Burgeon as well. Amir Abdullah, who was signed earlier this week, late last week, with the running back room kind of going through some injuries. He also has a lot of experience as a return man. Alongside him was Patrick Taylor Jr., Jordan Watkins, Corey Kiner, Jordan James, and Robbie Chosen-Anderson. So a lot of guys getting reps for Brant Boyer's unit today in regards to returning. Not exactly sure who will be picked and chosen to be the guy on the preseason days, but my assumption is you'll see probably Amir Abdullah and Junior Burgeon back there. You might get some Jordan Watkins and Patrick Taylor Jr. on Saturday, but I don't think you're going to see Jordan James or Robbie Chosen-Anderson or even Corey Kiner, but I do think you will see Burgeon, Abdullah, Watkins, and Taylor Jr. In week 1 of the preseason against the Broncos. But we also got a fight today, which I hate to classify this as a fight because although it, I guess, could be categorized as that, fights in the NFL, when people say it's a fight, usually means there was some pushing, there was some shoving. Today, while there has been those instances a couple of times throughout training camp so far, this probably was the biggest scuffle of the group. I don't know exactly what transpired. I don't know, who pushed who first. There didn't seem to be any punches that were being swung around or fists flying through the air. But whatever happened, Connor Colby was not having it with the defensive line today. I don't know if that was, CJ West, who has been known to irritate the offensive line groups during practice and whatnot. But Connor Colby was sticking up for himself and his guys. He was out there shoving dudes around and getting in their faces. So on one hand, let's not do that. On the other hand, a rookie kind of making a name for himself, maybe in a wrong way, but not backing down. So things were cleaned up pretty quickly, so nothing really to see there. No suspensions or fists being thrown about. But Connor Colby, I guess in some way, sticking up for his troop out there on the offensive line and not taking any grief from the defense. So something to note, but I really wouldn't classify it as like, it was a massive fight. I've been there when massive fights happen, and today was not that. It was more of a lot of pushing and shoving from the offense and defense. Some smaller notes is that from Jakob Robinson. He continues to be one of the more impressive undrafted rookies this year. I think he is climbing up the depth chart now. I don't think it's that much right now, but he's making it, or at least if the cut down day was today, I think he's looked better than Darrell Luter Jr. now. In preseason games will certainly dictate more of that for us when that time comes. But he's certainly pushing for a roster spot. It may make it really hard for the organization to cut him. I think they were hoping he would be a kind of like primary practice squad player for them, but he's had a phenomenal camp so far. It's funny because he had two really good plays today. He blanketed Robbie Chosen Anderson during 1v1s, broke the play up. It was like, wow, that was great, which again, 1v1s in the red zone, although in this case gave the wide receivers less room to maneuver, never are in the favor of the defense. So it's a good job from him there. But his best play of the day, unfortunately, turned into a touchdown for the offense, which wasn't his fault, but kind of how things went for him. He had a really nice PBU on the day from a ball thrown by Mac Jones, got in front of it and kind of just like smacked it in the air, like just knocked it down or tried to knock it down. And that ball flung up in the air, flung behind him right into the hands of Demarcus Robinson, who caught it and ran for like 75 yards for a touchdown. So the result may not have been what Robinson wanted, but other than that, the means of getting there was really good for him. So another good day for Jakob Robinson, who's had about half or more than half of the days being a noteworthy player on my end. So that's good for him. Hopefully San Francisco views him the same way, and I am very eager to watch him in these joint practices and during preseason on Saturday. Also, Dallis Flowers, cornerback, I think right now he's probably leading the cornerback 3 or the outside cornerback 3 competition. I think if you, again, ended today, which there's 2.5 more weeks to go before cutdown day comes, but I think he would probably be starting if Bernardo Green wasn't active, which, hopefully Green gets healthy soon and should come back in a week and a half. But Dallis Flowers has outplayed Darrell Luter Jr. He's outplayed Trey Brown, and I think at this point in time has played well enough to kind of solidify himself as a leader of the outside cornerback 3 competition over Brown and Darrell Luter Jr. So some good stuff there. Also, Robert Saleh, it's staggering to go from Steve Wilks, which was probably a B+, B- coach, did well enough, but didn't fit great. And then you have Nick Sorensen brought in, and it was a clear decline. Nick was given the short end of the stick, was the fallback guy, the last option. They said, oh, crap, we didn't get Spagnuolo or Belichick. And here Nick had the job, and it clearly showed. He just wasn't ready, wasn't prepared. This was kind of, he didn't really know what to do. And it's not his fault. I don't think he's ready for that role, and maybe never will be, but certainly wasn't last year. And to go from Nick Sorensen, who you walked in, didn't have much confidence in, he just felt like he was kind of over his head last year at DC. Then you bring in Robert Saleh, and we know him obviously pretty well in San Francisco, being here for a handful of years before he left for the Jets. But one, he commands that room, but two, he just knows how to coach a defense. He knows where to put guys, the purpose of certain plays, when to run stunts, when to run blitzes, just has a better understanding of the position, where sometimes you don't talk about that when you're discussing coaching. You may say, oh, the guy's bad, oh, the guy's good, but that conversation is sometimes saved for players. But Robert Saleh very much knows what he's doing. And today, although you saw some of this yesterday, it was on full display today. He was doing some just like maniacal things on defense, the stunts, the blitzes, bringing linebackers, bringing cornerbacks, dropping defensive ends in coverage. He was doing all these things, and you're like, oh my God, this is a much more in-tuned and focused defense, not just the players, but the assistant coaches and the guy running the show at top. So fun to see. And it makes me really excited to be able to watch this defense finally have a leader you can trust back in that room. Again, I like Steve Wilks, but going from Wilks to Sorensen, you deeply missed DeMeco Ryans and Saleh in that room. So to have Saleh back in there at the helm, steering that ship in the right direction, and also just putting guys in the right place to succeed. And the things he was tossing out there today are things Dick Sorensen could not dream of in his wildest dreams. So just awesome to see out there from the defense, just to have a defense with a different plan of attack than just go, stop, go. Now it's like, no, you're going to go here. And like, it just has all these ways to help the defense succeed, where last year they were just so flat. They are so much more communicative. They just know. They're so much more prepared than they ever have been in the last couple of years, in my mind. They're young. They'll make mistakes, but really good to hear Saleh and the defense doing some great things out there. Let's get back to the YouTube chat for 1 second prior to getting into the actual plays of day 11 of training camp. Papa J says, "What's up, Sterling? What's up, Papa J?" He also says, "Like, share, and subscribe." That I agree. John Nevels asks here, "What gives, bro?" What have you heard about them bringing back St. Brown and not bringing back Isaiah Neor? I haven't heard anything, but my assumption is the fact that Equanimeous St. Brown, being a veteran, more proven, although not very much, but more proven, played in a Packers system, in a Bears system, probably has a better understanding of the Niners offense than Neor would have. Also, Neor, just again, with no pads, looked really good, but just disappeared. And I think San Francisco, at least going into joint practices, having so many injuries, may just want a guy more prepared that can actually run the offense to what they want them to do and be in the right place at somewhat the right time, compared to Neor, which, again, once the pads came on, it was like he just sunk to the bottom of the depth chart. Like, they didn't cut Isaiah Hodgins. They didn't cut Tariq Owens. They brought in Annie Isabella. Like, they cut him over those guys, which kind of shows you where his mentals may be at. I'm not saying he won't be brought back at a different point in time, but at this point in time, I just don't think Neor has what they need for joint practices to have the offense running at full speed in preseason games, or at least, being in the right place for quarterbacks and running backs in Shanahan's offense. So maybe give it some time. He might be brought back, but I just also don't think he was that impressive, and that's a big deal. Like, this team already has so many unknowns, and you can certainly like the makeup of Neor, but I don't think Equanimeous St. Brown makes the roster. It just having a guy more prepared that can help you run the offense better in practices does matter. And I think when you have so many competitions going all over the place, like the wide receivers mix in with the first, second, and third team. And the one thing you can't do is have a guy like Neor who maybe built right and have all these traits you love, just not have the mental awareness, not really know the offense to be able to run the offense and to get the other position players running at full speed during camp and whatnot. But I don't think he'll be brought back, and I'll kind of put the hammer or the final nail in the coffin of that because I really don't think. He just didn't really impress. Papa J says here, "That's my $1 million question, Sterling, the kick returners." Inside track is clearly Junior Burgeon, but I think Jordan Watkins, who has still continued to be really good, it was good today as well. I think those two guys might be who end up winning the job, with like Patrick Taylor Jr. as the third guy behind them. Let's see here. Joseph Ehrenberg's in the chat saying, "Heard you were out there throwing hands, Sterling. I may have a history of, giving you Jack Johnson and John O'Hurley every once in a while throwing fisticuffs, but not today. Today was a calm day for me out there at training camp." Moving along here in the YouTube chat, let's see what we have here. Benali P says, "Love that our offense had an off day. It means the defense is doing well. Wish Brock threw more interceptions." Brock did throw one pick today. We'll get to him in 1 second, but I wouldn't call it an off day for the offense. Just the defense raised their level of play and had a lot more marquee plays throughout the day, mainly from Dee Winters and Upton Stout, who were just it's hard to fathom Stout and his progression so far. He's just been tremendous, but more on him later. Papa J asks, any word on Carter Bradley? Nope, don't really care either, but it's just not important, to be honest with you. Like when Carter Bradley's throwing, I just kind of, it's like, you know, you go to your notes, type your tweets out, and move on from there, right? But I just have no intention of watching him play outside of preseason, obviously. But and look, that's my own fault. But you are not going to find a Carter Bradley breakdown here on most days off this show. It's really not worth it for me. Let's see. Joseph Ernberg, in reference to Nick Sorensen, says, I loved hearing communication breakdown every single week. Yeah, clearly there was no communication, and even if there was, it was probably from the wrong voice, which thankfully saw us back in the building. Papa J asks here, though, in the YouTube chat as well, Sorensen, does he even have a job right now? Dallas Cowboys special team coordinator. So good luck, Dallas. Have fun with that. Let's see what else is in here. Diamond D at LBC. Okay, I see you out there. I see you. They ask, who do you see replicating Deebo's role in the offense? Nobody. I don't want any of that stuff. That said, and I'm referencing like the wide back stuff, I think the end around, Deebo Samuel stuff, the screen stuff, it'll be a mix. I think we have seen Christian McCaffrey's done some of that stuff in previous years and also in training camp. Ricky Pearsall has done a lot of the end around stuff earlier on in training camp, pre-injury. Jacob Cowing, or in the OTAs periods, was doing some of that stuff too. So that's three, I guess, players you can say being part of the offense in that way. But I don't think you're going to see a one-for-one replication of Deebo Samuel's role in the offense. And if you do, I would be upset at that. I think that this team has a chance to be more versatile than just a Deebo Samuel role guy you plug and play. They can do so many things. This team has so many skill sets, which, yes, Deebo certainly had a more versatile skill set than most, but I don't think they need to do that stuff. Like, I don't need to see a wide back in there. I think you're going to see more of the CMC, Garendo, and Jordan James stuff in the backfield, and you'll see the end arounds be with Cowing and Pearsall for the most part, I think. And also, it's a good chance for Shanahan to become more creative and not have the reliance on Deebo for game plans of, all right, give it to Deebo for 1 yard on a wide back run. So I don't think one player fits that mold, but you may see a more kind of all hands on deck approach to replace the end around and screen stuff. But none of the wide back stuff should be in the offense anymore. At least that's what we haven't seen through training camp thus far. Papa J says here, I bet Sterling could kick any other Niner content creator's butt. I have been known to give my Planet Fitness lift in here or there, but Larry Krueger's a big guy, so Larry may have me on there, but I have them fresh 28-year-old legs. I may be able to move around a little more, but I appreciate your confidence in me, Papa J, but hopefully it never gets to that point in time where I have to throw hands with the content creator in the chat or somewhere else, but I appreciate your confidence. It's all love to all the content creators out there, but I like to call myself the not as attractive, not as jacked Robert Saleh of the content creator space at this point in time. But I will bite my tongue at that point. And let's keep moving forward with the rest of the show. Let's get to the actual takeaways from today's practice, because Brock Purdy, and I see you in the YouTube chat, Jesus, Strawberry Reacts. You asked me yesterday, how often do you see a backup quarterback get more reps than a starting quarterback? And I mentioned to you yesterday that sometimes there's running plays or a more efficient quarterback that gets less reps because they score more often. But today, it was a complete and utter split. 15 reps a pop. Mac Jones went... Mac Jones, I had 14 for 15 on the day, whereas Purdy was 10 for 15. Purdy's worst throw came at about kind of the midway point of practice. He threw behind and high to George Kittle over the middle for an interception by Richie Grant. that was like the one, like, oh, like, can't do that. That's a bad play. And throw from Purdy. That was the one kind of glaring blemish on his record today. But other than that, I thought Purdy was continually a very solid quarterback throughout practice. Had a very nice touchdown to George Kittle, so got his lick back, if you will, later in practice, splitting the safeties, that being Richie Grant and Jason Pinnock for a touchdown. So got it back later in practice. He also hit Christian McCaffrey in stride on an excellent deep pass while being covered by Luke Gifford. So Christian McCaffrey, who we'll get into him a little bit later in the show, but Purdy and McCaffrey have been a very consistent receiving threat, which I love to see. The running backs as a whole have been a bigger receiving threat than running threat in training camp, which makes some sense with not being able to kind of hit guys early and then whatnot. And just the offensive line, the starters not playing much, or at least you having one or two guys out thus far. Like they've missed Trent and Barch and McKivitz through portions of it, so that makes more sense. But hit Christian McCaffrey in stride down the sideline today. He also had a lot of connections to Ricky Pearsall. And I don't want to make light of how good Pearsall has been, because these guys connect over and over and over again. I think yesterday was 6 completions to Pearsall, 3 during 1v1s and then 3 during team drills. Today, 5 completions to Pearsall, all from Brock Purdy, I believe, and all during team drills. So some really good stuff. The first play of practice, 20 yards to Pearsall, just bang off the jump, laser right to his hands. The second play, he hit Pearsall over the middle for about 15 yards. Then on the third play, or his third completion to Pearsall on a slant route. So they were cooking early in practice, and definitely often throughout practice. It's like half of Purdy's completions were to Pearsall today, which shows you how in tune they are. Had a perfect throw to Pearsall in the corner for about 15 yards downfield, right into Pearsall's hands, just boop, right there. So again, we saw what Juwan Jennings could do last offseason if he was out there during OTAs and training camp. And I think we are going to see that from Pearsall. Just being there every single day would have paid him dividends last year, but now he's doing it this year with having a full year in the offense. He knows it pretty well, like has it down, knows where Kyle wants him to be. It's almost like Pearsall avoided the doghouse entirely now. Maybe Kyle is tempted at one point to put him back in there, but it's almost like getting shot, although terrible and was very scary, getting shot and all the injuries they had last year has like made Pearsall pass or bypass the doghouse portion of his career. Now, Ayuk landed in there, in year 2, year 3, so there's still time. Kyle has time to put him back in the doghouse, but Pearsall, I think, has almost played himself out of that being a discussion entirely for him, which is awesome to see. He might be the first one to avoid it entirely of the receivers they've drafted since Kyle's taken over as head coach, which is, again, just credit to Pearsall's growth and work ethic. He's crisp. He's quick. He's moving quickly. Like everything is trending upwards for Pearsall. And he is right now the receiver number 1 now. Once Ayuk comes back and Jennings is back, maybe that changes. But right now he has been a bona fide stud through training camp. One of the highlight plays of practice. And one of the things I think indicates how good a receiver and quarterback's chemistry is. You saw this with Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers. You saw it with Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes. Although I'm not comparing Pearsall and Purdy to those guys and those tandems, but Pearsall, having not played half a year last year, really didn't gain that time with Purdy he needed. And now having it, there was a play today that I thought was a great display of where their chemistry is at, because the ball snapped. Purdy rolls to his left, and like he often does at times, he rolls to his left, flips his hip back, back to the right, and fires across the field. Now, it's a dangerous throw, but Purdy is a reckless player at times with those things and doesn't mind doing that stuff, but rolls to his left, flips his hip back to the right. Pearsall sees it. He flips his hips rolls back to his right, or I guess his left, really, and is just right there with Purdy, knows where he's going with it. Purdy throws it his way. Pearsall kind of like leaps backwards, catches a football behind him. So it's small instances like that just scream to me something big is coming from Pearsall in year number 2, and they're in lockstep, and it's a good place to be in if you're Pearsall, not knowing when these guys may come back to be healthy and knowing San Francisco needs you to play a big role. He certainly has shown enough to me to warrant not just starting on day 1, even if Jennings is out there, but I can honestly say, like, even if Ayuk and Jennings were healthy, Pearsall to me becomes a starter in that grouping where Juwan may revert back to being the slot big receiver. You love him, and you can certainly rotate guys, but Pearsall has earned that starting role throughout the first 11 or 12 days of training camp thus far. Continuing things with Christian McCaffrey, although Christian has been I don't want to say invisible, but like he's had a lot of off days so far. Again, the rushing attack hasn't really been there through camp, albeit today, I think was Christian McCaffrey's or one of his best running days outside of, individual drills and whatnot. Again, he looks fast, he looks quick, he looks spry. But I think today he had a few one cut and he was gone runs, and you're like, oh, there's prime Christian McCaffrey. There is vintage CMC again. So there was some good stuff there today. And I think, where he hasn't really been talked about, and a lot of the stuff has been more about his speed than his actual performance, which I hope we see more of probably during preseason week 2 compared to 1. But I thought it was a good day for Christian McCaffrey, a player that almost has to prove he can stay healthy again. It's been a slow building training camp in regards to being mentioned often during podcasts and in media circles and from writers. But I think today was one of his better days rushing the football, and on top of the couple receptions he had through the air. But moving along back to, I think, probably the best kind of 1v1 sessions we have had outside of Bosa and Trent Williams, and maybe even outside of the TJ West stuff. But we got, again, Pearsall and Upton Stout 2.0 today, round 2, if you will. Saw them yesterday, and I think Pearsall and them kind of tied, but today was all Upton Stout. He faced off against Pearsall 2 separate times today in 1v1s. The first rep, Pearsall did fall down, so that stinks. But the second rep, he was just stuck to Pearsall like glue and was not going to give him any space and locked him down. So good to see Upton Stout, who has become, I think, the most impressive rookie the last week and a half or so, maybe the entire training camp and OTA sessions. He's just a superstar right now. I think he's locked down the starting job, although they won't tell you that. I think he has. Today, again, flashing the sticky and coverage stuff he's known to do, and kind of we've come to see him do a lot. The one thing he does struggle with, which doesn't surprise me, is he's quick, he's speedy. He's also sticky in coverage, mind you, but he does play. He plays smaller against bigger receivers, as he would. He's a smaller defensive back, but it shows there. If there is a concern with him, it's playing against those bigger slot receivers like Puka Nacua, and if they have Devontae Adams playing slot and no one's shadowing him, if you put JSN in the slot and Lenoir's not guarding him or Green's not guarding him, where could that lead? And without having San Francisco schedule in front of me, bigger receivers are probably going to give him fits, knowing that they just have a size advantage over him. But that said, he lost against Russell Gage today, but it took, and this is the big thing here, it takes a lot to beat Upton Stout in 1v1s, even if you are big. It takes a perfect throw in the corner on Gage's back shoulder to beat Stout in 1v1s. So for all the talk of bigger receivers being an issue for him, which makes sense due to his size, he's still going to make those receivers earn the rep, which is what you want. Guys that fight to the end, that are going to get handsy and grabby in the right way on defense and not get caught for penalties and whatnot. So 1v1s, he was 2 for 1 today with beating Pearsall twice, though. Beating this team's right now number 1 receiver, always a good sign for Upton Stout. And funny enough, there's so much more to get into about him because the 1v1s were great, but it's blown me away how quickly he has risen up the depth chart. I walked into the year of Upton Stout's probably going to be the backup nickel, probably going to be the 4th or 5th cornerback on the depth chart, and that to me is just not the case anymore. He looks like the starter. I think at this point in time he deserves to be a starter. He's too much of a playmaker to not be on the football field. And I get it's practice. I get there's not the entire full strength offense out there, but he can't help that and is still doing his part in looking good doing it. In run defense was great today. He got Christian McCaffrey, got a run stop early on a play. Probably one of the more impressive running defensive plays for him on the day was they did a running play to the left. It was like a toss to the left. Berford pulls out and is just running full bore right at Stout. Okay, I'm a smaller cornerback. I'm not going to fare well against bigger receivers. I'm not going to be able to get in front of this gigantic man at left tackle, that being Spencer Berford. Berford pulls out and is barreling down on Stout. And you're like, oh, Stampede's coming, brother. Get out of the way. How is he going to do this? But to Stout's credit, he takes on Berford full bore and keeps the running back on the inside, forcing him back into the teeth of the defense, giving the linebackers and safeties a chance to get the running back. And I think that's what you look for. A nickelback who's fearless against bigger guys. He shows it against bigger receivers. And for him to take on a left tackle who probably has 150 to 200 pounds on him, if not more than that, and be fearless and just not really care of I have a job to do. I don't care how big you are, how strong you are. I'm going to do it. That's the effort you want. And that's why he continues to be a standout every single practice. His best play, though, in coverage today, I think, was when Purdy drops back, takes a deep shot to Christian McCaffrey downfield, and you're thinking, okay, easy touchdown. He's open. Stout makes up the ground in space. At the very last second, leaps, gets his hands on the football, knocks it away, and you're like, oh my God. How do you do that? That's incredible stuff. Again, it's so hard to, if anyone is watching Upton Stout and not that impressed, what are you watching now? Again, that may change, once preseason games come, and we'll certainly get a better idea, about things as we go. But Upton Stout, man, I cannot hide my joy about how good he's looked. He's outplayed Alfred Collins, and for as great as CJ West has been, Upton Stout's been better. Michael, again, different players, different positions, but Upton Stout continues to steal headlines from guys that are bigger, stronger, and higher draft picks than him. He's just if there was a pick for first team all rookie in training camp, he has it locked up. He's been that good, so good. You do want to see him go against bigger receivers, but man, he's just been so good, so good. Now, I hope that continues, and I hope he can flex off what he's been showing us at camping games so everyone else can see how good he's been. But thankfully, it's not just me. He has been a standout, and I think he's earned the right to start, not just in preseason week 1, but against the Seahawks in the season opener. He's just been that good so far. I do want to get back to the YouTube chat, though. I see your questions here. See if I can find them pretty quickly. Want to say what's up to Lori Matthews in the YouTube chat. How you doing, Lori, out there in Phoenix? Hope you're staying cool. I'm sure it's pretty hot. It's hot here, 90 degrees where I'm at right now. So I'm sure it's about 135 where you're at currently, but hope you're staying cool out there. let's get to some questions, though. The 49ers 2025 asks, what's up, Sterling? Hope all was well with you. Right back at you, brother. What do you think of Berford and Pleasance? If you have a chance to be at the night facility, would you mind asking Kyle about Dillard? I don't even think you have to ask Kyle about Dillard. I think the thought was he'd be this backup right tackle, or at least be in that conversation and in competition for that job. However, he's hurt still. He hasn't practiced. Now, they haven't cut him yet, which I think gives you an indication as to what they wouldn't provide him the opportunity to play and win that job. Because with so many guys out and Dillard being on the sideline, you can cut him and sign somebody else. But I think they value what he can bring to the offensive line more. But we haven't seen it. And it sucks. And it just, has quite frankly worsened the competition in the room. And it's made the offensive line look worse in the process. Like, there have been days where the offensive line looks terrible. And you're like, holy hell, this is bad. But I do think that Berford's locked in at left tackle. He's looked okay. He's not been tremendous. Like, there's been times where Bryce Huff just beats him with speed, or Bosa beats him with power. And I think it's helped him. And the great thing about, and it helped Jalen Moore the last couple of years too. The good thing about having Trent Williams be 37 years old and take rest days often is you give your backup left tackle ample opportunities to play with the first team, play with the left guards and whatnot, but also go against your top edge rushers. So I think it's only going to help Berford play left tackle with the ones against Bosa and Huff and Micah Williams and those guys. But he's been okay. It's been a weird transition for him the last couple of years, but I think he's been serviceable. I'm not blown away. I'm not shocked. He struggled at times. He's kind of been who he's been the last couple of years again. But for us in Pleasance, I think it's been a better display simply because we didn't know what he would show or how good he'd be. But I think he's been good enough to probably lead the right tackle room with Dillard out on the sideline, not practicing much, albeit was doing work today, so maybe coming back soon, hopefully. Pleasance has looked pleasantly surprising. And I think that's a good thing. Like, there's anchor issues, there's hand placement stuff, but Pleasance really should be your third string right tackle, vying for a roster spot, not being your backup tackle. But I think he's taken the opportunity and stride it. And I think he's kind of run with it and played more up to par than I think I thought he would. They've kind of praised him a little bit, not much, but they've kind of mentioned his name here or there. But I like Austin Pleasance. I think he fits the offense more than I thought he would. So hopefully that answers your questions. But hopefully Andre Dillard comes back pretty soon. Benali P asks here in the YouTube chat, good question, by the way. Should we be worried about Christian McCaffrey getting matched pace for pace with Upton Stout and Dee Winters? No, because one, those guys have 5 to 15 yards on him in his routes and whatnot, so they do have some space advantage. But also, Winters is and was like the second best coverage linebacker in football last year. So if anything, it's a good thing for Dee Winters. Now, let's also not forget, Christian McCaffrey is 28, 29 years old, and even if he's healthy, is going to inevitably show his age. Now, I don't think it's, he's not like getting beat all the time, but I think it's a good thing. I wouldn't be too worried. Now, if it comes game time and he looks slow and looks tired and stuff, then yeah, we can raise the red flags. But I think it says more about Dee Winters and Upton Stout than Christian McCaffrey and his potential decline. Stout's quick and Winters is fast as hell, so I wouldn't put too much into that. Some may want to do that, but Winters is, again, tremendous as a coverage linebacker. Kenny 49er says here, I remember when Sterling was just at 200 subs. We have grown a lot, not as fast as I want to be, but 1,600 of you in here. Really appreciate you. Really, really, really appreciate you. It has been fun to watch and fun to grow, and happy to grow the community and see all the YouTube people in here in the chat and ask questions. I really appreciate every single one of you out there. You don't know how much it means to me that you guys are here every single time. So thank you so much, Kenny. Happy you've been here pretty early, so you've seen the growth, and happy you're back in here with us today. Robbie439 asks us, Sterling, if Dee Winters is so great, how come he didn't beat out Devondre Campbell? One of two things. One, Devondre was, supposed to be a much better run defending linebacker, hence why he played more on base downs. Also, Dee Winters is an over pursuer in coverage at times, but also, especially in the running game, over pursued a ton. They were hoping that Devondre could help get them into better third down situations, which at that point in time, Winters could come on the football field and be the coverage linebacker. That didn't work itself out. Campbell was bad, and Winters was often hurt and could not be relied upon on base downs. That's why. But you saw when Dre Greenlaw came back, Dee Winters was the guy they were saying, hey, you're next in line. So I wouldn't look too much into depth chart things last year. I think that Winters was relied upon to be the coverage linebacker. I'll just put it that way, make it very simple for you. And when he was healthy and he was out there in coverage, he was one of the fastest dudes, one of the stickiest dudes, and I think has taken leaps and bounds to increase his run defense and make him a more playable player on base downs and on long third downs. So it's a good question. I get where you're coming from, but I don't think last year was just kind of a mirage, honestly, of just take it and kind of crumple it up and throw it away. It was so bad in so many different directions. And I think if Nick Sorensen wasn't the defensive coordinator, I don't think you would have seen Devondre Campbell playing the entire year. Had Robert Saleh been the DC last year, I don't think Devondre Campbell would have lasted as long as he did. Winters needed to stay healthy, but I think Saleh would have quickly made the decision to change over. I think Devondre was kind of the safety net for Sorensen. He was the guy to replace Dre Greenlaw in the meantime. But I think Winters, to the fans, and I think towards the end of the season, pretty clear to the coaching staff, was on the rise, and Campbell quit. So there's that. Let's keep moving along on the notes I have. But first, I want to remind you to use promo code 49ersaccess, 49ERS, 49ERS ACCESS at SeatGeek.com. You'd think I'd get my own promo code right? But you can use it and save $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek.com to save yourself $20 off, whether it's NFL tickets, MLB tickets, or concert tickets. Use that promo code right here on your screen or down below in the description and save yourself $20 off your first purchase. And funny enough, let's continue with the Dee Winters conversation because he had one of the best plays of the day. Upton Stout, he knocked away a Christian McCaffrey would have been touchdown, and Dee Winters equally. He displayed his coverage skills against Christian McCaffrey and got a PBU against CMC on the day too. It was fourth down. CMC runs the wheel route. Winters runs stride for stride with him, forcing Purdy into a tight window throw. It was almost impossible for Christian McCaffrey to make a maneuver, and just, again, smothered him in coverage. So great play there. Good stuff from Dee Winters. Moving along to Mac Jones at quarterback. He was 14 for 15 on the day. A lot more of the short completion game for him, but again, one of the wildest plays was he throws a football. Jakob Robinson tips it up in the air, and somehow it finds its way into the arms of Demarcus Robinson for a 75-yard touchdown. He also has shown a lot of chemistry with Jordan Watkins, who he found twice. And I know it was kind of a hot take as to why Braden Willis was on my roster predictions heading into the kind of finalish week of training camp into preseason, but Him and Mac Jones have quite the connection. Now it's not George Kittle and Brock Purdy, but Willis has been not a favorite target, but targeted often, and been more involved in the passing game with Mac Jones at quarterback this training camp session. In regards to the trenches, we have CJ West continuing to get first-team reps. Today, he beat Jake Brendel in 2 of his 1v1s with him, albeit they were pretty hard-fought wins. But West continues to get the reps needed to become a starter pretty soon. It looks really good at that. It's tougher for him to win against these more experienced guards and centers, but West just looks like a dog out there during 1v1s, and I think the more he plays, the better he'll get. So good to see there. Ben Barch, though, he was back with the 1v1s today. He debuted in the 1v1s after being back in the team drills. He did lose to Jordan Elliott, but then he beat Alfred Collins. So a mixed bag for Ben Barch as he works his way back into the fray. I don't know if he'll play against Denver on Saturday, but the more like I think he may, but again, he's injured or working his way back from injury. But making his debut 1v1 is probably a good sign for joint practices on Thursday for him, and maybe to play on Saturday if they want to do that. Then Alfred Collins, who I think has had one of the more polarizing training camp sessions thus far, starting off so slow, injured, but continues like today and yesterday and 2 days ago, showing signs of progress. It's almost as if the wheels are grinding really slow, and San Francisco is trying to put some grease on those gears and get it turning really fast. So the more he plays, the more you see those gears start to move a little faster. His pads get lower. He wins more. But it is a like in his head. Those gears are grinding. But grease them wheels. He'll start trekking harder and stronger. So good to see there. And then Jake Moody, the kicking competition. Jake Moody, in his first day without Greg Joseph out there, he goes 5 for 6, missing a 55-yard field goal, doinks off the goalpost. And it's so funny because Jake, people were angry. They cut Greg Joseph in his first day back. Like, okay, Jake, can you get a perfect day? And he couldn't do it. That final kick seems to be Jake Moody's kryptonite. He just can't get it done, like ever. He'll go 3 for 4. He'll go 4 for 5. He just can never make that last kick. But a good enough day for Jake. You want it to be perfect, but not a bad day. I think they should bring back Greg Joseph, but I think if Jake continues to be 4 for 5, 3 for 4, I think they're going to be okay. And the 49ers 25 asks here, did Nick Sakel play center? He has played center a ton during training camp, less when Ben Barch was out, but does get reps there pretty often during training camp behind Jake Brendel with the second and third teams. Any more questions in the YouTube chat? Let's see. I don't see many of them, which may be an indication it's time to end things. But I want to thank all of you out there. Every single one of you in the YouTube chat, the 49ers 25, Papa J, Kawachipto, Robbie439, Manuel Rodriguez asking, who is this Timu Grant Cone? It's not Timu, brother. This is the Sheen Grant Cone. Get it right. But I appreciate you being in here. Who else do we have? Rob D, Omega Dread, Lori Matthews. Again, so many more of you. Tommy Huxley. Again, so many of you in there. Thank you guys so much. Strawberry, Benali P, every single one of you. You guys are awesome. Tribes in here too. Thank you to every single one of you. Hope you guys can like, share, subscribe. Leave us that 5-star audio podcast review. You can follow us on social media at 49ers_access is the X or Twitter. 49ers.access is the Instagram. And use that promo code 49ERSACCESS at SeatGeek.com to save yourself $20 off your first purchase. That's all I have for you today. A day off tomorrow. joint practices on Thursday against the Denver Broncos, and the preseason week 1 is here this Saturday. Can't wait for those. Hopefully you'll come back for the recaps of both of those events. And as always, my name is Sterling Bennett, and until next time, stay faithful.